Hello, folks, and welcome back to Vampyr. Ah, one, two, three, Whitechapel is a good show, though I would recommend only watching the first two seasons. There's there's four seasons, but the latter two break from the shtick of it, and there was one plot point in it that was just too awkward for me to actually watch. Um, I just kind of cringed away from the show and never finished it. Basically, the first two seasons center around copycats of historical killers in the Whitechapel area, Jack the Ripper and then the Cray twins. There's someone trying to replicate the Jack the Ripper killings, and then there's two people, modeling themselves off of the Cray twins. Um, and the main cop guy was called upon. There's a local ripperologist who gave him advice that actually ended up proving useful. Then there was a. Then he ended up assisting with the Cray twins as well. In the third one, they kind of deviated away from that to more general ones with a vague association to historical cases, like, oh yeah, this killer will have keeping his weapon as close on him as possible, which led the cop to discover, it was hidden in his wooden stump. It was a lot less direct than the earlier ones, but yeah, the earlier ones were better. And when I say seasons, it's like the first one was like 2 episodes, 3 episodes dedicated just to Jack the Ripper, and then there was a B plot going on, but it wasn't like other cases around like that. Then season two was just dedicated to the Cray twins, 2, 3 episodes, the episodes dedicated to them, and that was it. The next one was 6 episodes, but 2 episodes per case. But yeah, some of those were fine, but it kind of deviated from the general theming of Whitechapel. Um, so it's a little worse for it. The light flickers quite unnaturally. Ugh, one sec. I'm always paranoid when I say particular words, because sometimes I slur my words together, it's just how I speak, and I'm worried it's gonna bite me in the ass. It's kind of like thinking Witcher, how I refuse to say a particular enemy name. I would always call them benecked ones or whatever, because I didn't want to slur it and misspeak. Hmm.
There is no protection against malevolence and trickery.
Bit of screen tearing going on.
Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry, I'm new to Whitechapel. But perhaps you could help me since you're a journalist. My name is Jonathan Reed.
Dr. Reed, the famous surgeon. I'll gladly help if I'm able, sir.
Everyone knows this dude.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
Well, that the morale is important. At the same time, you know, the disease is also important.
It's a disgrace. People are left to die alone. No one is properly informed of the risks.
These are bad times indeed. So much for the glorious British Empire.
Indeed. While morale is important and whatnot, deliberately keeping very pertinent information from your populace like that is just gonna sabotage it.
Have you any idea of the danger you face in these streets at night?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
I'm convinced there is more at work here than a simple epidemic.
Really? To be honest, I could say the same. Some of the sick I saw or heard of. My God, what happened to them?
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
He goes where none of his colleagues would dare to go, to inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth. I saw many reporters do the same during the war.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
Commendable.
That's quite honorable of you. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
Christina Popper claims she sells her body because she can't find any other work. Do you believe her?
Of course I do. Her story is exactly what I want my readers to understand. We live in an intolerant and divided nation.
Do you think things will ever change, Mr. Darby?
I believe the situation can only improve. And now that women can vote, I'm convinced things will change.
Nothing there.
I heard you're investigating an underground medical dispensary in Whitechapel. What do you know about it?
Not much, I'm afraid. They are wary of strangers, and I'm not really an acquaintance of theirs. Why do you care?
I'm a doctor, Mr. Darby. I care about everything involving public health and this epidemic.
Are you sure you're not just concerned about the repercussions that a scandal involving a certain Nurse Crane from the Pembroke Hospital would bring?
Without a doubt, you are a damn fine journalist, Mr. Darby. What do you know of her accomplice, a man named Darius?
I don't know much about the man. He's very cautious, never goes out, doesn't seem to have any friends or family.
He has no relatives at all?
No, except for that strange man, a poet named Richard Nethercott, who sometimes comes by. Darius would never let him in.
Where can I find this Mr. Nethercott?
He spends most of his time lurking around Whitechapel, talking to himself or declaring verses. These days, you can usually find him behind the church.
Which is very convenient, because that's literally just behind this building.
He never goes out.
No. A few days ago, he unexpectedly did. I followed him, but it was just a ruse to keep me away from his house.
Really? How do you know?
He went to the nearest mailbox, but just before posting his letter, he ripped it up and threw it away.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Farewell.
I was figuring he turned around and flipped me off. There's a bit of screen tearing going on, and it's annoying. Day's Skull. Sup? Your ass is mine. Whoop. You know what? Let's give a two-handed weapon a try. Only 2 swings with this. What's the cost in stamina? It's pretty heavy. Ah! Ah! Yo. Do it. Ah! Jackass. The mailbox and the letter? But wasn't it like 4 nights ago? That's a little ridiculous. I suppose it might still be in the streets, but I'm sure it's been raining since then. Whoa. Is he gonna be an enemy? No, he's fine.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak about that which the eyes cannot see.
Really? Are you an artist of some kind?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night, sir? Do you live here?
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me. Especially with strangers.
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu.
True enough. How did the song go? No creed or religion has ever stopped a bullet from the gun.
If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
Yeah, true. True enough.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy. But the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence.
Yes. The enjoyable silence of the grave. You have a unique perspective on the situation, I must admit.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings?
Wasn't the bottom one seemed like a fair answer, but I wasn't sure how it would go. Again, there's value in having a full statement.
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me.
If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you?
Well, you for a start, my dear Doctor.
Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, why seek inspiration in Whitechapel?
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging.
Do you not think it a little morbid?
On the contrary, sir, Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much, and that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness.
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wild flower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown?
And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives? How she survives? Whom she may know?
Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
True enough.
In what way, exactly?
The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the added hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox. The stripped humanity raged across each street.
Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress?
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about, and that's what Whitechapel is made of.
May I ask you a few questions about the district?
Extraordinary part of town, is it not? I'll be glad to help you, if I can.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane, a nurse who lives in this vicinity.
Dorothy Crane. Oh, I love the name. The Crane of Whitechapel. Sounds very mysterious. But, sorry, no, never heard of her.
What can you tell me about an old man called Darius?
Darius Petrescu? Yes, I know him. At first, I thought he was only a small publisher. I invited him to publish my work, but his reaction was pretty clear.
Not interested in your talent?
Darius is an old political activist who takes delight in printing tracts and lampoons. Those communist activities only require mediocre writing skills.
Huh.
I'll leave you alone, sir.
Explains why he never left him in.
Morbidity can breathe its own beauty and grace. Whitechapel is not just disease, desertion, and despair.
Editor refusal letter. Nethercott, thank you for sending your book of poems, Songs from Defeated City, which we found as interesting and profound as we told you the first time we received it. Last in terrible times the country is currently facing must understand that such title would be totally inappropriate for any publication. Thus, since you still refuse to change your title and demand the full publication or none of your work, so now set to the Sycophant Publishing, chose the second option. Regards, A.G. Morris.
The silent flower of Whitechapel, an ancient.
Good evening, Mr. Nethercott.
And good evening to you too.
You don't really make a living from your scribblings, do you, Richard?
No, sir, I don't. I work so hard. I put all my time, my energy, my devotion into the precise carving of words.
Still, you don't seem to suffer from poverty.
With thanks to my parents, actually. I'm afraid I would not be able to live on my own without their help.
You seem embarrassed.
Someday I hope to proudly offer my first publication to my parents. Until that day, I'll remain the failure of a son they have to support.
I'll leave you alone.
Hopefully he snaps out of his stupor soon. But there's literally ghouls just in the other alley. Like, how... They really aren't good at hunting. Like, how isn't he dead? You, sir, should be dead right now. Ah, Camellia. Darius Pushetto's letter. My dearest, most beloved children, I'm so sorry you have not heard from me for a few months. The situation in London has been difficult. I know it may sound selfish and silly when you, my children, are still living in a country consumed by war, but there's also war going on here in England. A war against poverty and against injustice. This war I intend to fight despite my advanced years. This is why I'm writing to you today. I'll be coming back to Romania. That probably means I won't see you again before I die. Don't be sad, my darlings. You are grown up now, and you have children of your own. You know the sacrifice we must accept to make the world a better place. This is one I must make now to feel useful one more time. Wish you a long and happy life. Kiss my grandchildren for me, and remember that your father loves you all the way from this cold, damp country. I am, as ever, your loving father.
The content of Darius' letter to his children could give me more leverage to enter. Darius is a bit less of a...
Good evening,
Oh,
miss.
whoops.
I'm Dr. Reed. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, truly. I know you understand what I'm saying. Your silence has nothing to do with you being mute, does it? Tell me about Richard Nethercott. I understand he is quite fond of you, Camellia. Very well.
Huh. Flower bouquet. Small flower bouquet with a voucher for a free medical checkup hidden between the flowers.
Hello again, miss. Camellia, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever. Very well.
I do wonder where Nurse Crane finds the time to help out at the clinic. If she's, you know, it's all hands on deck with the other place. Whitechapel Old Road. Let's not. He's got a cold. Don't have a cure for that. I do have a cure for bronchitis. Ooh, you got fatigue. I can cure you.
Good evening, Doctor.
Do you need assistance?
That would be nice of you, Doctor. Who knows what I may have caught during my investigation.
If you persist in investigating the most pox-ridden boroughs of London, you must accept the risks.
Thank you, sir.
Goodbye, Mr.
Okay. How much more do I have? One more treatment for fatigue, one for bronchitis. His kid's got fatigue. I think there's a guy back here, the old soldier. He's got bronchitis. No, he's got a migraine. Then who had bronchitis? Or did I misremember? I misremembered. Ooh.
This elixir will give you faith again.
Oh. Darius has it. Okay. Let's pull your way into you guys' house. Oh, whoops.
Hello, young man. It's me again.
I told you.
Your father is worried about you, boy. He asked me to look for you.
So my father actually worries about me then? Okay.
Dad's literally just behind me, but ignore that.
I'm a Harry, by the way.
Even my dreams are soaked with gloom.
So, may I ask you a few questions?
I'm not bothered. What could be worse?
How do you feel?
I'm fine. I mean, it's not easy every day, but I'm fine. I'm just tired of being sick all the time. If only I could be tough like... Well, you know.
Speaking of which, what can you tell me about your father?
My father is an idiot who makes idiot things. That's all I have to say.
Alright.
Forgive my bluntness, young man, but you don't seem happy living in Whitechapel.
Why should I? I never wanted to come here in the first place. It was my father's decision. Look around you. Does this look like a nice place to live?
This place is awful, I agree. But does that not mean your situation can only improve?
That's exactly what my father says. Harry, you should be grateful for what you've got. But I wasn't even consulted when we moved here.
If life here is so terrible for you, why don't you just leave this place? Have you ever spoken to your father about it?
I don't go outside. It terrifies me so. I went outside once without my father noticing and I saw terrible things. Bloody and frightening things.
So that's why you stay at home all day? For fear of the epidemic?
I'm not afraid of disease or death, Dr. Reed. It's the living I'm afraid of.
Makes it sound like severe anxiety, but I think he's ran into ghouls. Like, the ghoul thing is just like completely out of control. People just putting it down to people going mad due to the disease, but the whole ghoul thing is completely, you know, out of whack. Feels a little too prevalent, you know?
Your father and Mr. Lewis used to be good friends. What happened, Harry?
I was young then. I don't remember Mr. Lewis ever coming back again after my mother died. Or was it after my father started bullying him? I don't know.
Have you tried speaking to Mr. Lewis about it?
I don't go out often, but yes. And he scolded me and told me to leave him alone. I guess my father frightens him too much.
But you are not responsible for your father's actions.
Am I not? Dad always says that he joined that gang for my safety. So if I wasn't born, people wouldn't be worrying about Colossus Joe.
Do Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
Yes, I know her. She came here to examine me when I was very sick. She said I should go out more.
Do you need any medical help, young man?
Yes, I do. I feel so tired. I don't know if it's the epidemic, but everything seems so hard.
You'll feel better with this. But you need to get a grip, young man. Medication alone won't cure melancholia.
I'm not sure I'm happy with the idea of living long in a world like this. But I thank you for your concern, sir.
Goodbye, young.
Oh, whoops.
Is there only pain and suffering in this world?
I don't want to loot the place. I never know what games it might have backlash in. Try to play nice, even like in the Witcher games.